Hello and welcome to the Athlete One podcast. Joining me today is a guest that I had back on episode 18, and he's currently the pitching coach for Guilford High School baseball in Connecticut. Jeff Letourneau, thanks for taking the time to be on the podcast.
Hey, good morning, Carp. Good to see you, buddy.
Well, hey, I see in the background there you got some golf clubs. It's Connecticut, and it's January. Is that a possibility?
You know, I live on the shoreline in Connecticut, so we get a few scraggly days here where we can get out and play. It's cold. You got to bundle up with the winter cap and the winter gloves, but yeah, I'm a struggling golfer. Let me put it this way. For the last 30 years, I've been trying to figure this game out. And if I had dedicated that time to piano or something like that, think about how good I'd be by now. But anyway, I enjoy playing with friends and struggling around the course. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I'd like to jump right into kind of where we left off because you were the most listened to podcast that I've had out of 91 podcasts so far. And this is the start of year 3. And, you know, after being a college All-American pitcher and a 7-year professional career, you coached your son's little league teams as they were going up through. And then you finally got an opportunity to become the pitching coach at Guilford High School. How's that experience been?
Oh, it's been great. Guilford, town I live in, great bunch of kids. Coaching staff's outstanding. I'll tell you what a coaching staff we got. We got a kid who's the head coach, who's super with kids, very knowledgeable, catcher D1 at James Madison. His dad helps out. He was a former big leaguer. We got another guy who knows baseball inside out, could coach any team. He played shortstop at Quinnipiac when he played. We got a great bunch of guys, and the kids are outstanding. It's a great little town, and the fun I've had coaching is just teaching these kids what took me forever to learn. You know, don't throw 2-0 fastballs down the belt and try to hump up an extra mile an hour to get by a guy and end up backing up third base. I talked to them about keeping the ball down, keeping the mechanics simple, keeping the ball off the fat part of the plate, maybe throwing something other than a fastball and a fastball count, which took me till about age 27 to learn. But the biggest thing I love working with the kids on is just for the love of the game and teach them a little bit of humility. And if you're going to play sports, you're going to fail, right? That's the number one thing. I can tell you a quick story. I'll jump right into a story. I'm in Sioux City, Iowa in 94, I think, in the Northern League, playing against Sioux Falls. My roommate and one of my best friends on the road, Matt Connolly, big 6'6", strapping Irishman from Queens, New York. He pitched 8 innings of stellar ball. Okay, we're up 3-1. Well, Ed Noddle, in his wisdom, says, Letourneau, close it out. So I come in. I got to face 9-1-2 in the 9th inning. So go right at him, right? You're up by 2 runs. It's on the road in their ballpark, about 3,500 people there screaming. I get on the mound. First pitch, get over fastball, the number 9 hitter. He hits it out of the park.
Oh, boy.
Wow, little son of a gun. 9 hitter. All right. Get the ball back from Tom Carcione. Walk around the mound a little bit. All right. It's okay. My manager's on the top step. Let's go. Go right at him, Jeff. I got the leadoff hitter, this little lefty kid. He's a slap hitter at best. He runs. That's his thing. I throw him a little get-over curveball. Good pitch. Whack! Down the right field line. Fair. Gone. 2 pitches, 3-3. I look in the dugout at Matt Connolly. He slams his water down. He's like, come on, man. I'm like, so Carcione walks out to the mound. Here comes Ed Noddle. You know, what the hell's going on? I go, Coach, I just threw 2 good pitches to the 9-1 hitter. You could throw those guys BP for the next 2 hours. They would not go back-to-back on 2 pitches. I guess that's baseball. So Ed Noddle goes, all right, let's go get him, kid. So the fans now are yelling, keep him in, keep him in. So I go, okay. Now you would think common sense would be throw a ball, mix it up a little bit. No, I'm going right at this number 2 hitter. Little second baseman. He reminded me of a young Ken Carpenter. I throw him a fastball. Probably 89. Good movement. Whack! Down the left field line. Inside the chalk line. Fair ball. Stand-up double.
Oh, boy.
Here comes Ed Noddle. Takes me out of the game. I threw 3 pitches. Home run, double on 3 good pitches, have you?
Yeah.
And 2 minutes later, I'm sitting with Matt Connolly in the dugout like, I'm sorry, man. Holy crap. And what I tell that story to my players. That happens. if you don't want to fail, don't play sports because you're going to fail,
Right.
right? So this is the thing I like teaching kids. Go at kids. Go with your best stuff. Challenge them. Don't throw 2-0 fastballs, 1-0 fastballs, 3-1 fastballs when they're sitting dead red and you throw 80 miles an hour down the belt. You got to learn to throw something off speed, a little get over curveball, or change up something. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. It's a great group of kids, great town, great coaches.
Now, you guys had a pretty nice run last year, as far as when it comes to Connecticut baseball.
We did. I'll tell you what, the coach again, the head coach Nick did a great job with these kids. A lot of talent, a couple good arms, 3 or 4 really good arms. And as you know from coaching high school baseball, you need that. And we got to the in Connecticut, we played a D2 schedule. We got to the SCC tournament, which is the D1, D2, D3 best 4 teams in Southern Connecticut, and there's a ton. Guilford gets in it, okay, which doesn't happen all the time. A D2 team gets in it. Played Notre Dame West Haven, which was a D1 team, beat them. Played Fairfield Prep, D1 team, beat them. I forget how it went. Maybe Xavier, another D1 team. We win the SCCs. The dream season continues. Now we go to the state tournament. We go all the way through the quarterfinals and the semifinals. And I'm really proud of my pitchers. Quarterfinal game, we won 1-0 on a home run. I want to say it was Andrew Shosho, who's now at, what's the name of the school? It's Swarthmore, down outside Pennsylvania. Big, strong kid, throws the ball hard. Threw a shutout. Next game, semifinal. I might be getting this backwards. Bryce Meter, who was our ace, who's going D1. He might have pitched that one, and then Andrew pitched the second one against getting old, Cart. Forget these teams we played, but it was a good game. He threw a 2-0 shutout. So we went shutout, quarterfinal, semifinal to get to the state championship. And we lost in the final game to Brookfield, but the tough game. We lost, I think. The bats went a little cold last 3 games, 2-0, 1-0 in the quarterfinals, semifinals on 2 home runs. That was it. You start to get to the finals, you start to see the best pitchers, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the last game in the state championship, we faced a tough kid, and he beat us, I want to say, 3-1.
That's a heck of a run, though.
Heck of a run. Good kids, and they're going to be just as good this year. Lost a couple really good seniors. This kid, Sammy Amatrano, great little ball player. He's hopefully playing at Quinnipiac right now. And lost quite a few seniors, actually. I'm drawing a blank. But Jack Farrar, who went to Miami. But good kids. Andrews at Swarthmore. Yeah. But we'll be back. Got a good group of kids, good town, and good fans and good coaches. So we'll be back.
Well, this kind of goes back to when you played as a senior in high school. You've told me you were a 5'6" second baseman / third baseman. You decided to join the Army. You grew a lot. And after the Army, you thought, what the heck, I'm going to go to FSU after the military. And that's where your career for baseball really seemed to take off.
Yeah. I think you named the first podcast, I think it was like, Why Not Me? Or something to that effect. And that's really what it was. I always loved sports. I think when I was in 8th grade, I was best athlete in my little middle school because everybody's prepubescent and 5 feet tall. I was a good little hockey player, little basketball player, little white kid in suburban Massachusetts who thought he was Larry Bird at 5'1". Good baseball player, hockey player, anything I could play because that's all we did. We played sports just like you did in Bel Air.
Yeah.
And then I got to high school and everybody became young men at 5'8", 5'9", facial hair. I think my junior year I was 5'3".
Ooh.
I don't even remember if I had sprouted yet. And but I always knew I was as athletic as these other guys. I just wasn't big enough yet, and it was going to happen. So my senior year, I get a little bit of playing time as a third baseman, second baseman. The days of being a shortstop were over because I was 5'3" and just too small. Pitching really wasn't on the docket. Maybe, mop up here and there. Had a good arm for a little guy. And go in the Army, and that's when I met you, and I was just playing battalion softball, having a blast.
Yeah.
Got a little mix-up at second base with yours true, you right there, second base, and almost came to blows, and that's where we became buddies, thanks to our other buddy, Rick Reynolds. Give him a shout out, Avon, Ohio.
Yeah, there you go.
So he's the one who introduced us. And I remember your reaction, not this guy. And we ended up here. We are 38, 39 years later, buddies. Um, but I just always felt like I can play baseball, and I took that attitude going to Florida State, which I should have been starstruck, but I wasn't. These guys had just been runner-up in the national championship, I want to say, in spring '86. I go there, and all these guys I was watching on ESPN the summer before, I'm on the field with them, and I'm like, these guys are good, but they're no better than my buddy Chris Boberg and Joe Lesperance, guys I grew up with. They're just baseball players. How good can you be at baseball? It's baseball. So I played with them, and I started to believe I can play. But I was still a little I guess I was a little in awe, I guess, when coaches started saying, why don't you go to junior college and maybe get signed? I was like, signed? Again, with the guys on the field, I thought, why not me? I can play as good as these guys. But I had no idea, what it would be like being on a field with pros. That's a whole different thing, I thought. But as I continued to progress, and I went to junior college in Orlando, and I went and played at University of New Haven and Quinsimmon and different places, and I got in the minor leagues, I always had that belief, like, I'm as good or better than that guy. And I took that attitude even into the minor leagues for 7 years. And it's funny, quick tangent here. I still tell my kids in high school, it's easier to pitch. I would rather pitch against the Yankees tomorrow at 57 years old than against Amity High School. And you know why? Because the guys behind me make the plays. All I do is throw strikes. It's a round bat, round ball, hit it.
Yep.
These guys behind me are going to make the plays. I'll bet if I pitched against a big league team right now and I kept the ball down, and people watching this are going to say, yeah, right, pal. But I think they would hit it at people more than not, and I'd probably get out of there with 5-6 innings, 2 runs. You try doing that against high school kids, there's a lot of real estate in the outfield. There's a lot of holes in the infield. That's not a knock on my boys. But
that's high school baseball.
High school baseball. And that's what I try to teach these kids. Hey, don't get frustrated. Just keep firing, keep working. Guys behind you are going to make mistakes. It's not the end of the world. Just believe in yourself, and it's all right. If you love the game, it's all right.
Well, you've admitted, you were a small guy in high school. What advice would you give a young high school player getting ready to start up here in the spring? And, he's dreaming of just some guys are just hoping to, hey, I want to be a high school baseball starter and that's it. Some guys want to maybe go on to play at the college level. What advice would you give that young player?
I see it every day. And the advice I give him is just keep working hard and play hard, love the game. You're going to grow. And it doesn't matter who's the best player at 16 or 17. Once in a blue moon, you get a kid who's 18, who's 6'4". You've coached them. They throw 93 and they get D1 scholarship. They get scouted. That's not the typical kid. I'm actually dealing with it with my son, Colin. He's a freshman in high school at Guilford High. He's a goalie. He's a late bloomer like I was. And my other son, Michael was 5'2" or 5'3" his freshman year. He's now 6'2", plays at Ole Miss club hockey. He's the strongest kid on his team. So don't worry about where you rate against your peers at 14 and 15 and 16. Keep working hard. Believe in yourself. Keep playing long toss. Build up your arm strength. Don't worry about the mound right now. I told you the story last time, I think. I played at college baseball with this kid, Tanyan Sturts, who some people listening may know his name. He spent 10-plus years in the big leagues. He was our right fielder at Quinsimmon. He was 6'5", 170 pounds. Now, I was like the NJCAA region, whatever I was region in Worcester, Mass. Pitcher of the year. I threw 88 with a good hook. I was nasty, I thought. Scouts would come to the game. They weren't watching me. They were watching the skinny right fielder who was 6'5", 17, 18, throw the ball to third base during infield outfield. And I'll never forget, he got signed by J.P. Ricciardi as a pitcher, not an outfielder. And I remember Tanya was like, JP, I'd rather play a position. And JP was like, listen, you're 6'5", you got a cannon for an arm. You're going to turn into a man by the time you're 23 or 24. You're going to probably throw 95. And sure enough, played 10 years in the bigs, and old Jeff Letourneau was still throwing 87 with a curveball. So don't worry about where you rate against your peers at 15, because everybody grows at different paces. And I'm dealing with Colin right now. He's 5'3", he's in net, he's a great little goalie, and he loves the game, but he doesn't cover up much of the net yet. He's got to really learn to come out and get angles and block the net. And someday maybe he'll be 6'2", and his big padding and body will block the net more.
Right.
But don't compare yourself to a kid who's 6'1" right now.
Well, you became a D2 All-American at the University of New Haven. And, the talk you hear in the summer is, I need to get exposure. I got to get in front of the college coaches and got to go to the best tournaments and everything. And, it's not 1980s, but it wasn't necessarily your case. And you have a great story where a umpire saw you pitch and then you go for a tryout because he knows the coach at the University of New Haven. Can you share that story?
Yeah. So now I'm 20 years old, maybe 21, out of the Army. I've gone to Florida State. I've gone to Valencia. I'm home for the summer, playing in a Stam Musial League, which is like a Twilight League or wherever you live in the country. It's a basically 18 plus league. You get an assorted group of baseball players. You get some college kids who are playing summer ball. You get some guys that are 23, 24 that are done. You get some guys that are 30 that just love baseball and don't want to play softball. So I'm playing for this team in Worcester, Mass, under the lights, and I'm starting to get pretty good. I'm throwing 88, really good hook, 2 different curveballs, one to get over, one a nasty, one in the dirt, strike you out. And in the Worcester Stam Musial League, that's pretty nasty, okay? So I think after 7 innings, I struck out 14. I'm walking in the car. We're going to sit in the parking lot with some of the guys, maybe have a beer or just soda, whatever, shoot the breeze. The umpire walks over to me by my car and says, "Hey, Jeff, nice job today, pal." I said, "Thank you." He goes, "I'm Wade Bovard." I go, "Oh, nice to meet you, Wade." "Jeff, where did you play high school ball? You from around here?" I said, "Oh, yeah, I went to Grafton High." Wade says, "I've been umpiring in this circuit for 20 years. I don't remember you. You played for Dick Coleman?" By the way, was a great coach. He made me love baseball. What a great coach. You talk about the impact a high school coach can have. Dick Coleman, Grafton, Mass. He says to me, he goes, I don't remember you playing. I go, because that's because I was 5'3" and I played second base. Maybe a little shortstop, third. He goes, "Yeah, wow. So what happened? You grew? Where'd you go to school?" And I told him the story. I went in the Army and I went to Florida State. And now I'm currently at Valencia Community College being a closer. And he says to me, "Did you ever hear University of New Haven?" I said, "No." Because again, I wasn't a kid who was a high school stud looking at colleges. So I didn't know who University of New Haven was. I think that's in Connecticut, but Division II school. He said, "Jeff, they're probably the best NCAA program in the Northeast. They usually go like 20-0 against D1 teams in the fall, and then go to the NCAA Division II World Series every year in Montgomery, Alabama, 13 straight years. Coach Vieira is the best. He's a buddy of mine. I'm kind of like a bird dog for him, and I'd like to give him your name and number if that's okay." I'm like, "Sure, thank you. That'd be great." Next day, I get a call from Coach V. "Hey, can you come down Saturday? A little workout we're having." I'm like, "Sure." So me and my mom drive down. My mom loved baseball more than I did. She never missed a game.
Yep.
Watched the Red Sox every night in the parlor. So anyway, she's giving me a pep talk as I'm driving down there, how to work the ball, throw breaking balls. I'm like, "Okay, Mom." So we get down there. And they have like 8 guys on the field, taking infield, outfield, taking some BP. All the guys got their New Haven stuff on. This coach, big strapping guy, New Haven Chargers t-shirt, New Haven Chargers shorts, hat, big strong guy. "Hey, Jeff, nice to meet you. Coach Anquilleri." I'm like, "Hey, Coach." He goes, "All right, listen, why don't you go get stretched out, warm up down the bullpen." I'm like, "Okay." So I'm throwing a little bit, running a little bit, throwing down the bullpen. I don't know a soul there. These guys are all NCAA, Division II schools for New Haven. So I'm down the right field throwing a pen. "All right, Jeff, why don't you come out and throw a little bit?" So I jog over to the mound, and I'm facing guys, and I'm doing what I did against the guys from the Stam Musial League. I'm striking them all out. Fastballs, 88, nasty hook. There's this guy in the stands with no shirt on with a beer can. Mind you, it's noon in June. And he's yelling at all the players. I'm like, "Who the heck is this guy in the stands?" Right? So I thought he was just a local idiot, baseball lover, whatever. So after I faced like 10 hitters, I'm in the dugout taking my spikes off. All the guys like, hey, nice job, Jeff. I'm like, I like this place. This place is pretty cool. So I'm taking off my cleats, getting on my running shoes. And this guy in the stands with his beer is like, hey, fat ass, Letourneau. Excuse my language.
That's
He
okay.
goes, get out there and shag some fly balls if you want to be a Charger, you son of a bitch. I'm like, who the heck is this guy? I look over at Coach Anquilleri like, who's this guy? Coach Anquilleri goes, you better get out in that field right now. Well, come to find out, the guy with no shirt on in the bleachers was Coach V. He was the legendary Coach Vieira, all-time winningest, I think, D2 coach, 13 straight NCAA programs, multiple players in the big leagues, and drafted every year.
Oh my
So anyway, welcome to New Haven. So
God.
that was it. After I got done, this guy took me and my mom into the office, his office, talked about coming to New Haven, how he had just lost a number one. He gives me a scholarship until I graduate. So I guess that's it. I'm coming to New Haven, Connecticut. And I told you this story last time because this really hits me right here. Because if Wade Bovard hadn't have come up to me in the car, right, and decided to say, "Hey, nice job. Where are you from, Jeff? Let me give this guy, Coach V, a call on your behalf," and I didn't get down there, Colin, Emily, Michael, none of them would be here. I wouldn't know my wife of 28 years.
Yep.
This whole life would be totally different. I ended up going to New Haven, met Mary, 3 kids. Isn't it funny how life works?
Oh yeah, it's amazing. It's that kind of leads into my next question because you talk about players getting their opportunities to play at the next level, and Coach V asked if you knew of anybody else that could possibly play, and if you could, this ended up being a lifelong friend for you.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite stories. So I'm playing. I go to New Haven. I pitch in the fall. Okay. And now I have to go. I get called with Coach V to the NCAA eligibility office. Okay. Like, what the hell is this about? So I go there. My grades are good. Debbie Chin says to me, Jeff, did you play at Florida State? I said, did you go to Florida State? I'm like, yes. Did you go to a junior college in Orlando, Valencia? I'm like, yes. She goes, did you graduate from that junior college? I said, no. She looks at Coach V and says, he can't play. Now I'm 21 years old, Carp. I was in the Army with you for 2 years.
Yeah.
I've been traveling around from Florida State to Valencia. Now I'm at New Haven. I'm finally going to get to play and show off my arm. I'm 21, but I'm really like 18 baseball age, right? I mean, my right eye, I haven't really pitched much yet. I'm excited about the opportunity. I think I just beat Sacred Heart in a fall game, part of the team. They tell me I can't play. This was devastating. So my choices were sit out at 21, go back to Valencia in Orlando, get my last 2 sciences with a lab and get my degree. Because I had good grades. I just didn't. You can't go from a 4-year school to a 2-year school back to a 4. And the NCAA put this in place, I believe, is so if you're playing football at Miami, you flunk out, you can't go take a class at Dade Community College for 1 semester and then come back.
Yeah.
So, but that wasn't my case. I literally was chasing baseball, again, being a dreamer and following this baseball dream. And so anyway, I have to sit out. So I said, what about going to Quinsigamond Community College? It's in Worcester. I haven't lived with mom and dad since I was 17 when I went in the Army. So yeah, I can go home, live with mom and dad. Mom can go watch baseball. I can pitch for this junior college in Worcester. I think they got a pretty good program, I heard. So anyway, I go to Quinsigamond. I'm pitching for Barry Glinsky, great baseball guy. And make some friends. I got 20 buddies. We're hanging out. We're playing. We have a good team. So there was this one kid on the team, our center fielder, Eric Klein, who to the day, and I played with you, Carp, the 540th Engineer Battalion. I played with guys who are in the big leagues. This is the best baseball player I've ever seen.
Wow.
Every time he got a pitch, he hit it on the screws. He could run better than anybody. He had a better arm than anybody. But for some reason, scouts he was All-American 2 years at New Haven, batted third. Anyway, let me get back to the story, why it was my favorite story. I'm pitching for Quinsigamond in the NJCAA regionals against CCRI, Community College, Rhode Island. This was a big rivalry. You probably saw it on ESPN. Coach V and Coach Ank from New Haven come watch me pitch because we had a deal that I was coming back after I went and got my associates, going to come back for my last 2 years at New Haven. So they hadn't seen me pitch all year. We stayed in touch. They drove up from New Haven to Rhode Island to watch me pitch. I end up losing 2-1. We get knocked out. I pitched okay, made a couple stupid mistakes because, again, I think I challenged their number 3 hitter with a 2-0 fastball at 87 right across the belt, and he hit it out of the park, and that was the 2 runs they got. Again, I didn't know how to pitch yet, even though I was 22, 21. After the game, we're getting ready to get on the bus. We lost. Coach V comes over to me and goes, hey, pretty good. You threw the ball well. I'm like, thanks, Coach. He goes, hey, we're looking forward to having you back at school in the fall. I said, me too, Coach. I can't wait. He goes, hey, just between you and me, any of these kids on your team worth, can you play ball? I said, Coach, that center fielder we got, Eric, is better than anybody you got. And New Haven had just gone to the World Series like every year. A couple guys drafted.
Okay.
He gives me a look like, Coach Anquileri gives me this look. Now, they only saw one baseball game. I think Eric might have popped up and flew out to center. Didn't get any chances in center field, so how the hell do they know?
Right.
I said, Coach, this kid is better than anybody you got. He runs better. He could bat leadoff, third, or fourth for you. He has the power. He never doesn't hit the ball right in the screws. He never strikes out. He's a great kid, blah, blah, blah. Coach V and Coach Ank give him I think, half scholarship on my word.
Wow.
He ends up being my roommate. Not to mention Danny Lynch, our catcher, who I also threw a quick plug in. Danny, me, and Eric lived together for 2 years. Danny was a hell of a ball player. He was our catcher. Everybody loved Lynch. He was a leader. Ended up playing pro ball, becoming a scout for the Angels. Anyway, these are lifelong buddies, and I feel like I almost did a Wade Bovard thing there. I talked about Danny and Eric to Coach V and Ank on the spot. If I hadn't have said that, if they hadn't have come to the game to watch me pitch, and I hadn't had the opportunity to talk about those two, they wouldn't have got scholarships to come to New Haven. We wouldn't have had that experience. They wouldn't have been in my wedding. They wouldn't be lifelong buddies.
Right.
But Eric Klein, to the day, is the best baseball player I've ever played with, and I'll continue to tell this story.
Well, that's a great story. Now, let's jump a little bit ahead now. You were in the Montreal Expos organization, and talk about what happened that cost you a chance to pitch at the major league level. And this is really, in my opinion, it's a great lesson for players when things don't go your way.
Touche. This, my God, if I could go in a time machine, my son always says, Dad, if you had a time machine, would you go back? What would you do? Would you go back to, 1939 and stop Hitler? What would you do? So there's lots of things I think about. And I would probably take that over what I'm going to tell you. But I'm with the Expos. I'm lucky enough to sign with the Expos during the replacement thing. So basically, I'm a scab. But I didn't care. I wanted a shot. I'm 22, 23 now. I didn't have the conventional road to the minor leagues and to the big leagues. If someone's going to give me a chance, I'm going to go try to get some exposure. So I'm down at spring training in West Palm with the Expos, having a pretty good spring. I think I had 6 starts in the Grapefruit League, and now I was throwing my knuckleball. I was no longer a fastball curveball guy. I was a mix-up guy, like almost an R.A. Dickey. I would throw a knuckleball. I could throw it for a strike, no spin. It didn't move quite as much as Wakefield and Charlie Huff and the Necro Brothers, but it was a good knuckleball. And I could still throw 88 with a hook, strike you out. So I started to turn some heads with the Expos. I had 6 starts. I think Peter Gammons did an ESPN preview of the NL East. If anybody could find this video, I'd love to see it. But I remember watching ESPN in the hotel with all my buddies with the Expos. And Peter Gammons did this preview about when the Expos head north to face Pittsburgh at Three Rivers, it won't be Mark Langston and Randy Johnson and Pedro Martinez. It'll be knuckleballer Jeff Letourneau and Link Mickelson and some of these other guys who were us. We're all sitting there in the hotel room watching, laughing. And I think if the first pitch of replacement baseball season had started that Sunday night, and I don't know if it was the Marlins against the Dodgers or whatnot, every guy who was on the replacement rosters was going to get a $100,000 signing bonus. Wow. Now, I had just gotten married. Or I was getting married, May 95. This was like March, April 95. So I was getting married in like a month. My wife was doing all the planning while I was down in spring training in West Palm with the Expos. So that day I pitch against the Dodgers in Vero Beach, and I'm coming back to my hotel, and we get a phone call. Joe Kerrigan, who I think passed away, pitching coach for the Expos, former big league manager for the Red Sox, and pitching coach. He says to me, we're going to send you to Ottawa. You're not going to Montreal.
Ottawa's AAA,
at the time, AAA internationally. Now, instead of being, who cares? I'm going to get a chance to play organized baseball in AAA with the Expos as a knuckleballer. I'm thinking, shit, 100,000 bonus. These guys in my hotel room are getting that money. I'm not. Figures. I put my beer down and I smacked the hotel bedboard where on my bed. I looked like a piece of balsa wood, so I didn't think I was going to break my hand. Obviously, I wasn't trying to do that. I played sports my whole life, never broke a bone. My roommate Link says, "Boy, you hit that pretty hard." I'm like, "Yeah, I did." Went got some ice, put some ice on it. But again, I thought it was probably a bone bruise. Next day we go off of practice. My hand's all puffy. I try to hold the ball like this and keep my pinky out so it wasn't impacted. I picked up the ball and just dropped it. Ow. I had broken my 5th metacarpal, like a boxing fracture, they call it. Didn't know how to fight, didn't know how to punch. So 3-4 weeks later, I'm in a splint in extended spring. After having a great spring training, Kevin Malone, the GM, Neil Huntington, minor league director, turned some heads. I'm in extended spring with a splint, and the minute my splint comes off, they give me my release for being a jackass. Wow. So if you think about the entire road I took, which was very non-traditional, and I'm finally going to get to pitch in Ottawa. Who knows? Maybe I have 4 or 5 good starts to get called up, or another team notices me and trades for me. But nope, I was pissed about going to Ottawa instead of Montreal to pitch at Three Rivers and get $100,000. And thinking little instead of thinking big picture, just being immature and young and dumb.
Right. Wow.
Punched the bedboard, got released.
Amazing.
So kids, if you're listening, let that be a lesson to you.
Well, what's funny is, all the conversations we've had over the years, you ended up getting a job at ESPN.
Yeah.
And if you could just share that story where you were in the cafeteria and walks Peter Gammons.
Yeah, this was great. I got some buddies like Rich Favorite, Tom Peters, Mike Bracco. A few of the guys I'm working at ESPN were John Friedman, Scott Atkinson. Great place to work. Not making any money. I mean, I had a college degree. I think I was making $20,000. But it was at ESPN. How cool, right? I was working in the commercial operations department. And, getting 30-second ads and scheduling airtime. And anyway, I'm in the cafeteria, and all the guys knew that I had played baseball, but they thought I was probably a little full of shit, too. And we walk in the cafeteria. One of the guys, I think Tom Peters, goes, "Hey, Letourneau, there's Peter Gammons. Think he knows you?" And I'm thinking to myself, I met him once. I get in line behind him and to get food through the cafeteria. I said, "Hey, Peter." He turns around and looks at me and goes, "Jeff, how you doing, pal?" The face on Bracco and Peters and Faber's face was priceless. They were like, "He does know you." He goes, "Hey, you're not throwing the knuckleball anymore?" I'm like, nah, time to move on. But it was a hell of a run. But Peter Gammons. So I went home with a skip in my step that night.
Well, it's amazing is there are some people that just have that memory that they can remember people. Like I'm the complete opposite. I can't remember a name, but I can always remember a face. But for him to be able to recognize you, that's amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's see. So that he didn't even know who I was until spring of '95, and this was 96. So it was only like 6 months later.
Wow.
I'm working at ESPN.
Let's jump around because you've had a great career as far as it goes professional baseball, 7 years, and you decided to take an opportunity and play overseas. And, for me, this podcast is if I can get guys to tell great stories, and this is one of those ones that I really enjoyed. And you were on the mound, and if you could kind of just take us through what happened in that one game.
So I'm playing for the Amersfoort Quick in the Dutch League. And there were, I think, 8 teams at the high level and 1 American or international player per roster. Most of the guys were Aruba, Curacao, which were Dutch properties. Good baseball. Probably like a D1 baseball, aluminum bat. And probably got 1,000 people a game to come to the games. There was a team in Rotterdam, Amsterdam, Haarlem, Den Haag, Amersfoort. So anyway, we got to play the same teams a lot. So there was this kid who played for, I think, Den Haag. I forget the name of their team, but he was a good player. He was a little leadoff guy who was just irritating to pitchers. He could steal, put the bat on the ball, bunt, If he walked, he was the kind of guy that sprinted to first base.
Yeah.
Then immediately took a big lead and was moving his feet around. And you were like, this guy's a pain in the neck. So he's on first base, and I'm at my set, and I'm looking over at him. I step off a couple times. I'm like, this guy, here we go again. So I throw over a couple times. He's got good speed, so you got to respect him. His name was Edwin Fokke, Fokke, with a couple dots over the E or something like that. He was a Dutch kid. So now the people in the stands are like, come on, let's go, turn the page, pitch. And I'm throwing over a few times, getting him to dive back. I'm like, I'm going to get him back a little bit. Now he's on second, first and second, like nobody out or one out. And he's doing the same thing. He's bluffing like he's going to steal third. He's over by the shortstop, banging his feet. I'm doing the inside move. I'm stepping off. And I'm just thinking to myself, I really can't stand this guy. So fast forward, I'm having a hell of an inning. He's at third base. And I'm at my set now because there's one out or nobody out, bases loaded. I'm looking at him at third because I'm a right-handed pitcher, and I'm facing him. And he looks at me and he goes, come on, pussy. Well, I step off the mound and I said, what did you say? I think I might have even said something like, you little Dutch blank, which in hindsight, kids, you're in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
You're in Holland. That's not a smart thing to say. But I was just like, I was going to fight this guy. So I walk over to him. The bench is clear. The umpire's like, what the heck's going on? The benches are all like, one of my third basemen, this guy from Curacao, Jackie Jacoba, looks at me and goes, Jeff, what do you say? I go, he called me a pussy. Screw him. Let's go, pal. Trying to get to the guy. This kind of reminds me of me and your little altercation at second base. But anyway, he looks at me like I have two heads. Come to find out, the guy was saying, come on, bossy, because the guy at the plate's name was Frank Boss, B-O-S.
Oh, my God.
So you talk about, never mind. I felt like a jackass. After the game, though, I'm having a beer with the guy in the cantina. We're laughing. He goes like, you're crazy, man. I'm like, well, I thought you called me a pussy.
Oh, my God.
So that was a funny story. We became friends. Everybody had a nice laugh. They thought the American guy was a little hot.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's a great story. But another one I think is even better is, and you're bouncing around through the different professional systems. You're in, I believe, Sioux City, and your team makes it to the playoffs, and you're probably the only baseball player out there that I know that you're being interviewed by the local TV, and the owner of the team and famous actor Bill Murray decides to, I wouldn't say photobomb, but he interview bombed your interview. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I'm actually playing with the St. Paul Saints, 96. And we're playing Fargo, Moorhead. Again, you probably heard of them. Hell of a team. Best of 5 playoffs. And Bill Murray, the comedian, was co-owner of the St. Paul Saints. And that's a great place to play baseball. Probably my favorite place ever as far as entertaining. We used to outdraw the Twins because the Minnesota Twins were terrible. It's summertime in Minnesota, and they play in a dome. We were playing outdoors.
Yeah.
The stadium seated 6,500 people. It was full capacity. People tailgating to come watch outdoor baseball. Probably $5 to get in. Mike Veck, the owner, son of Bill Veck, Bill Murray. They had pigs bringing out the balls to the umpire. I'm sure a lot of you listeners have heard about St. Paul Saints. It's really a cool place.
Well, there's actually a on Netflix right now. There's a documentary about the St. Paul Saints and you know, Bill Veck and the whole.
It's a circus. There's nuns giving massages. You can get your hair cut. There's dizzy bat races between every inning. It's a fun place to be. But meanwhile, there's a baseball game going on in the background with some pretty good players. When I played, we had Glenn Davis, Jack Morris, Darryl Strawberry. So there's some big leaguers that are trying to, it's like their farewell, their swan song to keep playing, maybe get picked up. Like Darryl Strawberry got picked up back to the Yankees, had like another 6-7 years in big leagues. But the typical player is like just somebody who's, looking to play a little more baseball, get paid to do it. So after the game, I think I beat Fargo 3-1 or something. I threw 7 or 8 good innings as a knuckleballer in the game 2 at St. Paul. So I'm in the locker room, and all of a sudden, one of the coaches said, "Hey Jeff, channel 4, 5, or 7, whatever, the sports wants to do a live feed. Can you put your shirt and hat back on? Go out in the dugout." I'm like, "Yeah." So I put my shirt, hat back on. I go out in the dugout. And the interviewer starts asking me about the game and says, look, you got off to a tough start, but you really had him chasing that knuckleball all game and blah, blah, blah. And I'm answering the questions the best I can. And all of a sudden I feel two hands on my shoulders, like rubbing my shoulders during the interview as I'm looking this way. So all of a sudden Bill Murray takes over the interview. He says, yeah, Jeff, we had to change a few things with his grip on the knuckleball. He was just ad-libbing and saying, he used to throw 4 fingers. I got him to using 2 fingers, but we really got it working today. He did a nice job out there. Took over the interview. Now the reporter's laughing. I'm laughing. Everybody's laughing. And God, I wish I could find that video. So if anybody watching can find that video, it was probably September 96, St. Paul, Minneapolis, local sports.
There you go. That's a great story. I enjoy that. Now, I do a thing at the end here where I like to do a rapid fire with you, and there are questions that may not necessarily tie into what you do with baseball, but I like to have fun with it. And the first one I'm going to start off with is, when I say the name Brock Purdy, quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, what comes to mind?
Well, first of all, I love this guy. And, here's a guy, Mr. Irrelevant, I think they dubbed him, last pick. Again, probably just believed in himself and said, I can play wherever you put me. Went to the San Francisco 49ers, last pick, probably thinking he was going to get a little bit of camp and get released. Once he gets there, he proves he's better than Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo. Now the guy may get the MVP. I think he was just named to Pro Bowl. But my connection to Brock Purdy was when I'm living in Orlando, Kissimmee, Florida, with you and Rick, and I'm playing for Valencia Community College. One of my teammates was this guy, Sean Purdy, who ended up having 2 boys. And I don't know, I haven't stayed in touch with Sean. I wish I could find him on LinkedIn. He may have more kids than the 2 boys, but Brock plays football for the San Francisco 49ers. His other son, nickname is Chubba. Chubba plays quarterback for Nebraska, I want to say. He was at Florida State. I think he transferred to Nebraska. But anyway, so Sean Purdy, and he lived in St. Cloud. Was that the town right next to Kissimmee?
Yes.
So I used to pick him up, take him to practice every day, drop him off, because the school was in Orlando, about a half-hour drive from St. Cloud, Kissimmee. So I became friends with Purdy, and he was a hell of a pitcher. What an honor. I'm not surprised this kid is in the NFL.
Yeah.
I think he went to University of Miami afterwards, got a little bit of cup of coffee, maybe with the Angels or somebody. But, I was watching football one day, and I'm like, Brock Purdy. That's a funny spelling, Purdy. And I Googled him and parents, and sure enough, there's Sean. So I haven't talked to Sean since 1988. And if he ever watches this podcast, hey, I'm rooting for your kid, and nice to see you. I'm glad things are going well. Go 49ers.
Well, you growing up in the Northeast and your whole family being big Red Sox fans, if you go to a game at Fenway Park, where's the best place for you to sit, and what are you having to eat and drink?
All right. Well, we try to go once a year with the family, and I love going to Fenway. I've been to a lot of ballparks. I think it's the best ballpark. Not if you're over 6 feet tall, which fortunately I'm 5'11". Not a lot of leg room. Okay. I mean, my knees are up against the guy in front of me, and I'm 5'11". I would say sausage and peppers, or maybe like a Fenway Frank, and I've sat at different places. I would love to sit on the wall on the left field monster. I never got a chance to sit. I know my mom used to. It's bringing up my mom again. She used to go to the wall and sit there a lot. She used to go to every Patriots Day when they did the marathon. She used to go to opening day. She went to a couple of postseason games. She sat all over the place. The bleachers are great too, though. Boston fans are something else.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to play with John Cerruti in Albany Colony in '95. John Cerruti played the big leagues with Detroit and Toronto, and he passed away. But great man. And John Cerruti told me he played in the AL East his whole career. He used to tell me playing in Yankee Stadium is nothing compared to playing in Fenway as a visitor. You play in Fenway, those fans are unbelievable.
Yeah.
The stuff they yell at you in the dugout. In the bullpen. Because the bullpen's right in the right field bleachers. Have you ever been to Fenway, Carp?
Never been. I've got to get there sometime.
Well, I live in Connecticut. You and Suze and Jake need to come visit me, and we need to go to Fenway. We'll do it maybe this summer. It is a great place to see a ball game. There's not a bad seat in the house, but just the environment, the atmosphere is awesome.
Yeah.
So, I want to tell you a quick story. Also, my mom, before she passed away, okay, in 2013, she was the quintessential Red Sox fan. She bought a brick. So in Fenway Park, in the Tom Bernansky section of underneath where you buy your concessions and your T-shirts and stuff, they have these different sections. The Tom Bernansky section, there's a brick there that says Emily, Michael, and Colin Letourneau. You could buy a brick, I want to say, for $500. So it's there forever.
Wow, that's
So
great.
my 3 kids have a brick,
There you go.
and it's my mom. She did that for us, and we have a copy of it. Excuse me. We have a copy of the brick, but it's also at Fenway, and it's there forever. And real quick, I know we're probably short on time, Cart, but I love to tell this story. My grandfather really taught me to love baseball. He was the quintessential Red Sox fan. Okay, he was born in 1919, died in 2003. He lived the 86 years the Red Sox didn't win the World Series.
Oh,
And he was buried in his casket with his Red Sox hat and his suspenders. And he was, wait till next year, Jeffrey. We'll get him next year. He never missed a game. And I spent my entire childhood watching baseball with him in the den. My grandmother would walk in, hand me a Coke, and a sandwich. And me and my Pepe and my dad and everybody watched the game. And, but one time I'm at a hockey rink and I'm telling this guy who's got a Yankee hat and a Yankee sweatshirt about my grandfather. And he says to me, he goes, Babe Ruth wasn't the curse. Your grandfather was the curse.
oh my God.
That was funny. But my grandfather, boy, he taught me to love baseball and love the Red Sox.
Well, if you were a manager of the Boston Red Sox and you had a choice between Group A or Group B, and this is your starting pitching rotation. Group A, Roger Clemens, Kurt Schilling, Jonathan Papelbon, and Babe Ruth. Or Group B, Pedro Martinez, Louis Tiant, Tim Wakefield, and Cy Young. Who are you taking?
That's a great question and probably over my head. I'd probably get this wrong anyway, but I think I would go with Pedro and Tiant and Wakefield and Cy because you have 4 different looks. Okay, the hitters can't get comfortable. You got a guy like Tiant, who I was fortunate enough to meet at a Novo Nordisk event, a big diabetes ADA Hispanic event in Boston. What a great guy. You talk about telling stories, that guy. But he used to spin and face center field and then throw you this big lollipop curveball and then throw 90 at the knees. He was nasty.
Yeah.
And then Wakefield would throw you knuckleballs that would drive you crazy. And then Pedro Martinez was probably the best pitcher I've seen in my lifetime. I always say Nolan Ryan because Nolan Ryan threw 7 no-hitters and 7 one-hitters. And when he was hitting with his curveball, good luck. You had no chance. Especially in that era he pitched where the average speed you didn't see was 100. Nowadays, everybody throws 100 miles an hour. So,
yeah.
But, and I never got to see Cy Young pitch. I believe he was probably a lefty, big, off-speed stuff here. I don't know. I should know that.
Pretty good since I named the award after him. So,
yeah. He must have been pretty good. But I would go with Group B because you would give hitters a different look every versus Schilling, Clemens, Papelbon. They all threw hard, 95. I think hitters would get used to those guys.
yeah.
No knock on those guys.
All right, being a big Northeast guy, you can only pick one team to root for in Boston. Is it the Red Sox, the Celtics, the Patriots, or the Bruins?
Wow. And I have a hat. I should have worn it. All 4 logos on one hat. I would probably say Boston Bruins because I love the sport of hockey. I think there's nothing like it. Beautiful game, more exciting, fast-paced. Me and my 2 boys watching the Bruins in the playoffs is the best. Now, having said that, 1975 when Bernie Cabral hits the home run, pinch-hitting home run against the Reds to tie it and force a Game 7 might have been the most excited I've ever been in any event. I was 9 years old. Love the Red Sox. Tom Brady and the Patriots, the memories I have. Larry Bird was probably my favorite athlete of any of them. But I'm going Bruins.
There you go. Well, it's funny you mentioned the 75 World Series. A big time controversial call was made with in that game up in Boston, and Larry Barnett was the umpire. And if people look it
Was
up,
this the?
he ended up, he's from a small town here in Ohio, and I had to coach when I was at Buckeye Valley, and we had to play on his field, and the field was named after him, the park was named after him,
Yeah.
and me and him got into it because he didn't like the way I hit infield, and he thought I was ruining his infield. And so I got a chance to argue with Larry Barnett through the fence, and
Nice.
and I kind of threw a little jab that really kind of set him off. And I said, well, you're still mad about blowing that call in 75. And that was it. Believe it or not, when we played that school, we were not allowed to go back and play on that field again after that. So
he really took a disliking to you.
Yeah. So
I've seen that side of you with the big dog softball team. I've seen you get ejected a couple times and go hot with the umpires. The umpire's like, not this guy.
Yeah. Well, hey, I want to finish up. I'm going to take a chance here. I don't know if you're prepared for this, but way back when we were younger, you would always do this. And could you finish? And this is definitely for the people of the Northeast, and a lot of people may not get this. Finish with your famous Boston Celtics announcer, Johnny Most impression.
All right, Larry Bird with the ball. He kicks it back to DJ. DJ kicks it out to Ainge. It's good. I can't believe it. Bill Van Beer is nothing but a gutless, no good. And the Celtics are the best team I've ever seen. And go Celtics, Johnny Most.
That's classic. I love it.
Matter of fact, I think on our apartment in Orlando, in Kissimmee, that was our answering machine. It was something to the effect of,
DJ kicks the ball out to Bird, Bird to Maxwell, and Bird, and I can't believe it. Hey, you've reached Ken, Rick, and Carp. No one's here right now. Leave a message.
Those were some good times.
Well, and then we follow that up with Sonny's barbecue and hit the couch.
There you go. Well, everyone, it's Jeff Letourneau, pitching coach at Guilford High School in Connecticut, and one of my best friends. I've known you for 37, 38 years, and I don't know if I've told you this, but you are the most listened to podcast from back on episode 18, if people want to go back and check that one out. But wow, thanks again for taking the time to be on the Athlete One podcast with me.
Well, thank you, Ken. And you make it fun conversation. And I have no doubt, I'm not surprised that your podcast is doing so well. So thanks. This has been fun catching up, but definitely take me up on Fenway Park and then maybe head up to York Beach and see a little lighthouse. I know Suze likes that.
Yes.
So, all right. Good catching up, buddy. I hope this goes well.
All right.
Pass this podcast on to your friends.
All right. Well, hey, thanks again and take care.
All right, Carl. Bye-bye.